I just did that.
I don't think they could.
Oh, God.
You're right.
This is still Alan Johnson, and I am being part of a workshop called Starting a Spiritual Support Group for Mental Health and Wellness in Your Congregation. And we're just beginning to introduce each other and to talk about the resource. Yeah? Okay. Thanks. Takes a lawyer to help me figure this out, right? So as I said, so I think kind of what I learned with kids, and this is totally a footnote. The book that really affected me is called "The Window into Heaven" by an oncologist at Yale New Haven Hospital, in terms of what she learned from the children on the oncology unit with cancer, about the divine, the holy, try to move over a little bit here, about how we could learn a little more about how the holy divine has really and can the children can lead us into that dimension, and I've kind of learned a lot of that. I've done pastoral counseling stuff, and I've done listening stuff and all that. But I tell you, the kids really helped me to realize how powerless I really am, and yet how powerful it is to be present. And I think that's kind of one of the things that kind of brought me into what I'm going to talk about in terms of the spiritual support group, people that have mental health issues. So again, just your name and kind of what you would like to share on this topic, or maybe something just popped into your mind you want to share. So I'd love to hear that, or you can always just pass as well, obviously. So I'm going to go to my left over here.
My name is Annika. I go to the First United Methodist Church in Chula Vista, near San Diego. I'm a lay person, but I have an interest in mental health and wellness as a person with a mental health diagnosis. And
excuse me, let's wait a minute. Let's get adjusted here. So then we want to be able to hear everything you're saying instead of focusing on where am I going to sit? Am I going to be part of this?
I'm like focusing on not knocking down my snacks.
Yeah, we'll go for it if they come along. That's good. Yeah. So we're just doing some simple introductions, name and whatever you want to bring up. So again, please say again.
My name is Annika. I go to First United Methodist Church in Chula Vista. I'm a lay person, but I have an interest in mental health and wellness as a person with a mental health diagnosis, and as well as my two adult children. I'm kind of trying to gather resources here and ideas and bring more education and awareness to the people of my congregation. We've done a few kind of introductory steps on a kind of a grassroots level to kind of have a mental health and recovery awareness Sunday once a year. And we just started a counseling ministry. My friend who's here with me is just got her PhD and is starting our counseling ministry at our church. So just kind of exploring some more ways to support not only the members of our congregation, but people in our community as well. So cool. Looking forward to finding out more kind of how-to stuff.
You're at the right place. I'm a hand right down to where do you put the candle and where do you light it.
Great.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lois Bloom. I met Alan a number of years ago, maybe 28.
Should we say
30?
Almost 30 years ago, and we haven't changed at all. This is amazing. We just exactly like we did.
And Alan's helped me with exploring the spiritual side of losing a child to suicide. We lost our son 30 years ago, and he was depressed. The church, our current church, is not involved at all with mental health. We really feel this huge calling at this point. We've done what we could with suicide prevention work in the country in various ways. And so we feel like this is the next agenda that God is nudging us for. So hopefully you can give me some hints. I know you can.
Hints and nudges. I love nudges too, yes. It's great. And why don't you say a little bit about your work that you and Sam wrote, the booklet, which I have gone around this country. I've passed it out to so many conferences, and Lois and Sam are the authors of...
No, I am. Not Sam.
For suicide.
Yeah, I wrote this. It's a Pilgrim Press piece, and I've sold like 44,000.
Oh my gosh!
That's why you're so wealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
5 cents an issue.
Information?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's a terrific resource. I've used it for many people.
It's very interesting because I don't really feel that I wrote it. I feel like God was very present, and Sam did help in many ways.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've done a lot more. We're from Neighborhood Church.
Oh, Neighborhood Church. Okay.
Yeah, which is about 15 miles from here up the coast. Beautiful area. And it's really a pleasure to be here, especially knowing that Alan's...
Oh, so great to see you again. Oh my God. Oof, history.
No, I got her name.
Well, and the other thing, if anybody, just want to say for the Synod, glad to talk to anybody about suicide prevention and suicide. We have vast knowledge that we've been working with for a long time. Yeah, well, it was our son's gift to us.
My name is Rachel. Last name is Hamburger. It'll be easy to remember.
Justice.
Yeah.
Chief Justice.
I serve on staff at Trinity United Presbyterian Church up in Santa Ana, which is not far from here. And I've been in ministry for now, it'll be my 21st year, all in the area of care, pretty much care and fellowship and congregational life. I feel like I have so much to learn. 20 years ago or so, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, which is kind of runs in our family, so I have a little inkling of a sense of what these different situations with mental disability are. Our church has some wonderful programs. A NAMI support group that meets every Sunday night. Families come and share and are supported. And then we have something called Hope's Nest, which is once a month. Hope's Nest, which is for people living with different mental disabilities. And they come themselves and share and have some time in prayer and scripture and just... So I'm trying to catch up with these stellar people at our church that are doing these kind of things and making it more well known to the whole church body and the community that we've got this precious work going on.
Great. Wonderful.
Okay. My name is Moises Ponce. I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I have a master's in clinical psychology from Loma Linda University. I'm I'm a county employee from the County of Riverside, Department of Mental Health. I'm the chairman of the Cultural Competence Reducing Disparities Committee, trying to outreach the community that has no services or underserved. And one of the branches, I would say, of this cultural competence is the Spirituality Initiative. And that's the reason I'm here. The Spirituality Initiative tries to integrate spirituality into the mental health recovery process. being that we want to go to the recovery model versus the medical model. Where the medical model sees a person like a person-driven symptoms, whereas the recovery model sees a person as a whole, with culture, with background, with the family, with all the stresses of life that need to be taken into account. And part of this component, a big component, is the spirituality. So what I'm working, and like I said, the reason is because I want to learn more about the church, about how to interact with the church. Some churches are so difficult to approach because we are government. We don't want anything to do with you guys because you,
Right.
yeah. So
Don't have a problem.
The first step we took at the county, and we did a spirituality initiative, we developed a presentation that is called Spirituality 101. And what we did, we went to all the clinical staff in the county, all the 50, 60 clinics, and did this presentation explaining what Susan Shore did this morning, the difference between religion and spirituality, and how the spirituality is informed by the religion of the people that come to our clinics. So we're not against religion. We are looking for an opportunity to talk to these, as we call it, consumers, for them to open up if they have spirituality. So because spirituality is a component in their recovery. Sometimes in the clinical session, they're not allowed because, the state and church are separated and we're not to proselytize and all that the jargon. But indeed, we've been spiritual all our lives, especially our communities, minorities. Spanish-speaking people, the first step when they have problems, they go to church. They don't want to be found in a mental health clinic. I'm not crazy. What are you talking about? But they go and talk to the priest or talk to the pastor. And sometimes the clergy don't know what to do with those issues.
Yeah.
So we want to be available. We want to be there as as a government, as a county entity. We want to be part of it. So the clinical staff is already, we say, quote unquote, trained, because there's also resistance in some of our clinical staff. So, but at any rate, now we're in a second phase where we want to engage the faith community. We want to work in collaboration. We want to develop a resource of churches that are willing to have a dialogue with us, to work together. Because, a pastor, a priest, a rabbi is a community activist, if you will. Because you're out there, you're reaching out, people are reaching out to you guys, looking for help. And sometimes we don't want you guys to be alone. And we would like to be part of that interaction. So that's what we're doing.
Good. Well, one of the things I'd like to do, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to close the door as I go, so I'm not leaving. I'm just getting up. Don't say like I'm not leaving. Would you do that? Yeah. I'm going to pass this out to others. That is one of the best books on exactly what you're talking about. How do I say your name? Moses.
Yeah.
Okay.
English
But it really is the connection between the spiritual and practical help. This is Nancy Kehoe is a nun who is also a psychotherapist, and she's held spiritual support groups in Boston for 20 years. It's a book about all of that, her experience, exactly what you're saying. So good.
Because I'm going to be talking with churches. I'm going to be
We'll get more.
A lot of activities. So
We'll talk about more. That's good. Okay, Ann, it's your turn. What more?
From Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here because I would like to see what I can do to help whomever would wish to work on welcoming folks to our Japanese
Yes.
folks who no longer feel able to come because of some kind of psychiatric mental illness, mental health issue. I know for a fact that there are people, and even today everything I told you is in confidence, right? You're not going to mention it to anyone. I said, of course I won't. But it's just such a shame to me that that we can't make people feel that God's accessible to them, and
Right.
worshiping together
Right.
is something that would empower so many to be full. So I'd like to see what I can do.
Thank you.
I'm Becky Anton. I'm a faith community nurse at Parkside in Sacramento, California, UCC. And I'm the co-chair of the UCC Faith Community Nurse Network. And this is an area that has always not been as resourceful as other types of health. And I'm here for support and start a support.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
And I'm Patricia Wood. I'm from the mountains above Santa Cruz, over the Monterey Bay, and that's where my church is and where I live. And I recently graduated from seminary, and I'm in the ordination process. I started a group in my area because we're very rural and hard to get services. You know, the county's not interested. You know, they don't want to drive in the mountains. They don't want to come up there and do, you know. We used to have a bus that went a couple times a day. We don't have any buses. They used to send the rides program up there. They don't send rides anymore for several years. And so when people who live in the area meet various kinds of physical or mental challenges, they're very isolated. And if they want treatment for their cancer, they have to leave. You know, if they want, if they need rides, you know, to the doctor or to the grocery store, they have to leave. You know, and it's just not right, because there are so many people who have lived there for many, many years, and this is their home, and this is the place they hoped would be their last residence, you know, on Earth. And so I started a nonprofit, which is all volunteers to provide these non-professional, neighborly services. And that's what we're doing. And I'm the chairperson and also the spiritual care coordinator. So that's the basis for my ordination path. And I have been finding that we're running into not only physical disabilities but mental health issues, spousal abuse, just hoarding, just all sorts of things. You know, it's an area that, because it's rural and rather secluded, it actually attracts people who just want to be left alone. You know, but often, you know, that can become an issue itself, and exacerbate something else that's going on. So I've been thinking about, you know, how we can, as a church, respond, you know, to the whole community, and how I, you know, can understand better how to help people. I mean, I'm not a professional, and you know, I could do pastoral care, but I'm not a mental health expert, and I don't have that training and facility, you know, at my disposal. So how do I, learn to refer and where, and how we can get the kind of help that we need in our area. In addition, we have some people who have occasionally come to our church, and we have one member now who clearly has some physical challenge, but she also has some emotional, mental challenge. And for instance, she loves the church, she loves the people, but she does not like to sit in church. People are too close, and it's too confining. And so she stays in the hall during the church service, and she enjoys the time after the service when people come in the hall, but they're more spread out, and then you can choose to be one-on-one, with somebody, and so forth. And so that's been a challenge for some other people in the church who are like, but no, you're here, you have to come to service, you have to come to service. And I'm just like, let her find, the way that makes her feel comfortable. Because I personally have some challenges with PTSD from a violent and abusive childhood. And when I came to church, I too just needed some space around me. And as it happened, the day I came to church, it wasn't the pastor doing the sermon. It was a woman who was dealing with her. She had gone to confront the man who had sexually abused her as a child, a family friend. And she had clearly had reported to the church previously about the situation, and she was there to tell what happened and how that went. And I was sitting in the pew, and I was like, "Oh my God! Wow! God could not have put me in a better place, because if this is the kind of church where you can talk about what's real in your life, then this is where I want to be." And that's really at the core for me, If this is the kind of place when we can be real together, then that's the kind of place I want it to be.
Thank you.
I'm Reverend Jerry Hancock from Madison, Wisconsin, and
which is not the center of the universe?
Well, it's I'm the
I went to his workshop.
Director of the Prison Ministry Project of the United Church of Christ in Wisconsin, and I was really excited about this workshop because I think many of the issues that we confront in terms of mental illness, we also confront in terms of prison, in terms of people in our congregations that are suffering in ways that are unknown, people that are afraid to seek help because of the stigma. All those things apply to people with loved ones in prison, as well as I think people with loved ones or who have mental illness on their own. And we are trying to start a support group for people with loved ones in prison. And I think a lot of the things you're going to teach us eventually.
You betcha. I'm getting there. Just slow down.
Are going to be very helpful in our project.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. That's terrific. The topics that I've been jotting in the margins here, I just hope that what I'm speaking we'll talk about how to find a safe welcoming space. That is number one to any kind of a spiritual support group, is the welcoming, safe space. Like you said, where you can be real and honest. And I didn't, when we do the core group thing, and actually I have some guidelines here in terms of how we do the spiritual support group, people have to abide by these guidelines, which includes confidentiality and anonymity. And we'll get into closing the door, lighting the candle, and doing all these things that are just symbolic acts for creating a safe enough environment so that people can speak the truth. And how hard it is to find a place to speak the truth that somebody's listening to. And to me, that's kind of like, I'm going to give you all the details about how we do this. And you got all the information here. But it's number one, how to create that kind of space in that environment. The thing about breaking the isolation, you're talking about that. Speaking from the pulpit, telling a story from the pulpit and how to use the language. Think about the medical and the recovery model. This is totally on recovery, what we're talking about in terms of spiritual support group. So how did we got it into being? Here's my eight points of my history. And hello. So we need one more chair. So it's called Widening the Welcome as we go. This is good. Thank you, Nancy. Good to see you again. So the brief thumbnail sketch is this. When I retired from being a chaplain about 7 years ago, I decided I really wanted to go to a NAMI group called Family to Family. That is there anybody that does not know about Family to Family, NAMI? Okay, it is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and is a program for family members who have a loved one who's dealing with mental health issues. And it's a 12-week course. I went because my son has been living with bipolar disorder for 23 years, been hospitalized many, many times, been taken to the psych ward by cops 2 or 3 times, etc. I thought when he was lost one particular time, the cops said, okay, we'll find him either in jail, in a straitjacket, or in a body bag. And it's those kind of places where some of you might have been, and you heard people's stories. So it's because of that experience and my own brother who had very, very serious depression, died by suicide. And as we know through mental health first aid, that 87% of the people, and I'm not sure you can confirm this or not, Lois, 87% of the people who do die by suicide have a diagnosable, untreated usually, mental health issue or mental illness, brain disorder. Anyway, so I got involved in Family to Family. And my local church pastor, who happened to be my wife, said, I know what you need to do. Once in a while she says that. It's very direct. Because another woman in our church had her second child die by suicide within the same 2-year period. And so my wife said to me, you get together with her and you do something. Well, what are we going to do? Well, you got to start something like, why don't you start a mental health ministry? Do something. So we started to have adult forums the second Sunday of every month, except in the summer. For that last 6 years, we've had a very special program on mental health issues. And that created a climate that then really led to Craig Rennebaum coming to our church in Boulder to do a presentation at which Anne was there, who has not gone to a church for years and years, lived with bipolar disorder, is a research psychologist, and said, oh my God, in a church you can say these things. It's like you said, Patricia, it's like that people have mental health issues, and you can say it out loud: schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder, major depression, eating disorder. You can just name these things, and people will say, "Oh my God, this is in church, and you're saying these things." So it's because of Ann, who then, with my wife, said, "Why don't you start a support group?" So I've done some kind of groups before, but here it is. Let's go down to the details. So I want you to interrupt me at any point. The 5 reasons for offering it are great. Read them later. Skip the page. Number 2, brilliant biblical stories about why it's important. Skip it. Let's get down to number 3. If you want to go back to these things, you can, but you know what? Yeah, there's no one in this circle would disagree that indeed Scripture and our faith as those following the path of Christ, or the one who brought wholeness to us, that's why we do it. Okay, here's how we do it. And we've been doing this for 5 years. We do it the 2nd and the 4th Monday evening for an hour and a half every month. 12 months a year, including Memorial Day weekend and holidays, because it is that important for people to come. We have facilitators of the group. I'm really on page number 3 on my little list here, but you can write down whatever you want. And stop me at any time, because I can just keep on going, obviously. And we found we really need to have 2 facilitators. And we tried to have, kind of Moses, what you're pointing to, we wanted to have kind of somebody who's more, shall we say, grounded in the quote-unquote spirituality, which for us is in terms of the word that you have used, Anne, this afternoon, and that is the word hope. If there's any other synonym for spirituality that I think of, it's called hope. And what is the source of hope? To me, it is a divine thing, a sacred thing, a holy thing. Wherever that flow, that energy of hope is, that's what spirituality is. So anyway, I'm one of the facilitators, and this other facilitator is Anne, who is a research psychologist who came to the church and realized, oh my God, you can talk about these kind of things in church, and she knows a lot. She herself is a peer, P-I-R, person in recovery. We don't use that. She doesn't use that word consumer anymore, or client. It's peer, person in recovery, peer. See, that might be the one new thing you're going to learn today from me. Anyway, I hope so. At least one thing. So she and I, and then we drafted another person so that, for instance, I was not there last Monday night, so this other person who is a part-time chaplain but also a leadership coach, who came to our group because her son has lived with bipolar disorder for 17 years, and we got to know that she was in sync with the group and was very helpful and present. So the 3 of us.
I'm sorry, it's
anytime.
Monday nights?
It's Monday nights.
What time?
7 to 8:30.
And where?
It's in one of the rooms at the First Congregational Church, our church. And we write about it in the local newspaper. Every group we've had at least 1 or 2 new people. We've gone from 5 people. Last Monday we're 20 people. And it comes from all around the community. Some are coming from the church, many are not. We don't do this we don't offer this as a way for people to come to the church. There are many people just hear about it from other people now we're hearing, because there is no safe place for many people to go to say, I don't know what the heck to do with my daughter, my son. I don't know what to do with my medication. I just came out of the hospital. I don't know who can I talk to. Even some therapists are now hearing about our group, and they're sending us. NAMI has listed us as one of the support groups on their classes and support groups, and it's called exactly what the title is here, Mental Health for Wellness and Recovery.
And maybe you stated that in the first 2 pages. I'm trying to find it. Is this a group for people not only with mental illness, but for families with a family member?
I'm glad to ask. It wasn't there. I didn't skip over it yet. This is for people that are affected by mental health, as well as those who are in recovery. So in other words, themselves. And that is very interesting, because people say, well why don't you have 20 people, you got to split up the group. You've got 10 people. This is how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of us right here. What if we had double this? And you got an hour and a half, and you're trying to support each other. We're trying to figure that out. Because somebody said, well, why don't you have just those who are persons in recovery, people that are dealing with schizophrenia, that are dealing with, you name the disorders, and then have the loved ones in the other group, because it's about half and half. It really is about half and half. So, no, it's an amazing. Rebecca, I'm only mentioning names because you don't know who they are, and I'm not, anyway. She has been living with an eating disorder for most of her young life. And she's just talking in the support group about, I just can't deal with my parents anymore. I mean, every time they call, they say, how are you, dear? I know what they're saying. What they really think is, are you eating anything? Are you dying? Are you okay? They're scared death to death themselves. And so she's telling this story, and the parents of this other, say, this woman who has this son who has, not sure really how his diagnosis is, but he says, Mom, if you ever ask me anymore to go back to therapy, I am just never going to. And so they're looking to each other and they're talking like, oh my God, a parent is hearing this from the child, and the child is getting this from the parent, and it's an amazing dynamic. I just sit there because I hope to have created a space, and I'll say more about that, to create that space so that people feel safe enough to say what their fear, their anxieties, their frustrations are, and then they learn from each other about how. So yes, we have everybody in the mix. That's what we call mental health for and people read about it in the newspaper, and they'll call me and they say, what do you do there? I mean, what is spiritual? You know, we don't know. But it's at a church? Is this a Christian thing? You know, all those kind of questions, and we can say some more about that as we go. But anyway, so we have the facilitators. That is really very, very important. And here are the guidelines, and these have been honed over the last 6 years. So this is your own copy, and every meeting begins with this. Everybody gets together. We're kind of in a circle. It's kind of, the lights are dimmed. These are kind of nice, but no neon lights. Overhead neon lights. No, it's like classroom stuff and no little, anyway. So they gather. I'll say a little more later. We have a pitcher of water, glasses with water. Some people now are bringing things to eat. Some that are gluten free. I don't provide any of that. People bring them if they wish to. Somebody, feeding is good of the soul and the spirit. So then we pass this around. Especially now, for instance, not all of you know each other. And at every meeting, and these are people that some of them have been there for 5 years, almost every Monday, every second and fourth Monday. But they're always new people, so we start this way. So we're just going to go and we're going to do it. Number one is we honor each other's presence, and therefore we listen carefully to one another.
Allow each person time and opportunity to express himself or herself before anyone speaks twice.
It is okay to stay silent. You can say pass at any time.
Share feelings as well as thoughts, including personal insights about your spiritual experiences.
Our main purpose is not to resolve difficulties, but rather to listen, support, and comfort each other. Any wisdom that emerges belongs to the group.
We encourage the use of I statements, which allows us to share our experiences and what we have learned, not as to offer advice to others, but to indicate some paths that may have been helpful, as well as what has not been helpful.
we are open to the expressions of how one's faith or spirituality has been a help or a hindrance. This group welcomes all faith traditions or none, and welcomes everyone's understanding experience of spirituality.
We agree that everyone has something of value to share with the group if they so choose, so that no one person monopolizes the time.
Confidentiality is maintained in the group. You cannot share whatever a person says here anywhere else.
We seek to provide a safe environment in which a person can share without judgment.
If a person needs to leave the meeting at any time, they are free to do so.
We begin and end on time.
Does everybody agree, we ask? Are there any other comments you want to say about any of these? And we've had conversations where we say, well, what do you mean by confidentiality? So we brought this up in one group because there was a person who was in the group that I saw at the supermarket. How do you deal, as a professional therapist, you know as well that you don't just go up to somebody that you know in a confidential setting to say, oh, hi, good to see you, how you doing? She's with somebody that says, well, how do you know him? Etc. So, but there was something really about that week before, and so what I walked by and I just kind of nodded, just acknowledging that they acknowledged it. But then she said, "Hey, would you come over here? I need to get over here. I need some help right now. I want to talk to my daughter." I said, "Whoa, this is in a supermarket." But anyway, confidentiality. We talked about that. How to make sure that you know that how to deal with it. Anyway, so. Those are the guidelines, and if everybody agrees, we put them down, then we close the door. The door is closed with saying, okay, now we have created a space that is now, we hope, safe enough. And then we say, who would like to light the candle? Now, I like a candle. Now, Colorado, as Jerry knows, in the summer can get up to the 90s, 100s. So having a candle is not like a fireplace. You don't need that fire. But the candle brings light. And so we say, would anybody would like to light the candle? And every time somebody says, yeah, I really would like to. And if you want to say something, you can. So they light the candle, and they said, I just need some light today, and I'm so glad to be here. Sit down. And then we begin. So the little rituals, these are very, very simplistic and very, very needed, so that people have a sense that it's safe enough, and actually it's welcoming enough, and it's anonymous enough at this point that they can feel like, okay, I can probably deal with some of this stuff. Because most of the people who come for the first time are very, very anxious and are just not really sure where it's going to go in terms of conversation. Sure, yeah.
So close the door means if you come and you're late and the door's closed, then you've already started the conversation.
Good question.
And that's, you get to sit outside. Or
Good question. We have to have a passcode to get into the church where we are at night. So if people have come, and especially those who know, and they have, actually there's a window next to that door, so if somebody kind of peeks in and they say, oh yeah, and they'll open the door and they will start. And they will come in. Yeah, so no, closing the door means that now you're out. It really means now that's safe. And you're still welcome to come around the light. That's a good question. So we asked the guidelines. In the past, we have offered like a little poem, very, very short, not a big long reading, because people are not coming to hear more words. You know, they want to hear stories. Stories is where we learn. I think I mentioned in the small group, or what is when Glenn Close at the White House thing was the most powerful presentation as part of this panel. She said the power of the story, not only to know your story, to say it, but somebody to actually hear it, is the healing act itself. power of story. So anyway, so you don't need a whole lot of words. We begin with 1 whole minute. I have a watch. 1 minute of silence. You know how long 1 minute of silence is with a group of people you don't know? Eternal. It's forever. But it really is, okay, we have 1 minute. And just want you to breathe a couple of times, and whatever comes, and just be settled, and however you want to do it as well. I mean, that's 7 seconds. Anyway, so I'm going to go through what we actually do. Sitting quietly is very, very important. We then invite participants on the bottom of page 3 if you want to, or just listen as well. You can introduce yourself with your first name, if you wish. We've gone through the guidelines. It's very clear that people can say, I pass, and there are some times that people say, pass, don't want to mention their name, or say anything at all. We ask for a snapshot. So what brings you here tonight? Anything going on right now? Just a snapshot, just a picture, not the whole story. There are some people who have the whole long story, and sometimes we need to hear that. But at the beginning, we want to get the snapshot so that, especially some of the newer people, we say, oh my goodness gracious, I'm not alone. I mean, that's huge, as well as I. I'm in that kind of situation. I've experienced that as well. So a snapshot after just kind of what's your name, and you can also say pass if you will. Because the main thing is to listen to the story without judgment. And then there's a wonderful phrase by, can't remember her name right now, but you want to listen someone into speech. Nell Morton. God, that came about a long time ago. You want to listen someone into speech. And so sometimes, if there's a lull in the conversation, some people say, well, I just want to tell you a story. You don't have to fill up the space. Unless you're like me as an extrovert who finds it very uncomfortable to be in silence and quiet because I only know what I'm thinking when I talk. But introverts, they actually think before they talk. Isn't that amazing? Anyway. So if there is a lull in the conversation, that's fine. It's fine. Take the time and just let it be in that quiet. And I've learned from Anne, the person that I can facilitate this with as well. And then when you begin to ask questions, it's very hard. This is not a therapy group. It's not therapy. I'm not a therapist. Anne is not a therapist. She's a research psychologist. We are here trying to honor each other's story and what they bring. So how can you ask questions? It's sometimes it's just intuitive. We go around, as I said, everybody's had a chance to say something like a snapshot, and say, well, so what have we heard that you want to follow up on? And you sit. And invariably, there'll be somebody who will say, I'm not really sure what to do with my son. He's asking for money again he doesn't get off the couch, but he wants money to, I don't know what he does. I can't get him to stop smoking pot, and so I don't know what to do. I'm just going to think about it. I mean, that comes out of the blue. I mean, she didn't say that at the beginning. Those are whatever those stories are. So if you just say, is there anything else you want to talk about? What comes to the group? Or I will say, with some people, it seems to me we're talking a lot about trust here. I mean, does that resonate with anybody about trust? And how do you trust, your partner? How do you trust yourself? one of the women in the group is a kindergarten teacher who had a psychotic break about 1.5 years ago, and the day after she got out of the hospital, after 6 weeks, I think it was, her neighbor who knew about the support group said, "Hey, why don't you go to the support group?" She said, "Well, okay." She showed up the day after she was out of the hospital, and to this, she's still part of the group, and she says, "Now, I'm learning how to discern the difference between when my mind is telling me that I need that dress, I need that whatever, I need to buy something, and other part of my mind is saying, no, that's not my, that's my bipolar speaking. That's another voice. I can't. But it takes time to even trust your own sense. And she said, I'm not even sure how to engage with other people. So, anyway. So, again, how do you ask some of the questions so it's not judgment? Open-ended questions. There's a little thing. Maybe our lawyer would know. You know what FICA is all about? FICA, FICA. You've heard about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's really a spiritual assessment tool.
No.
Yes. It really was. It's a spiritual assessment tool that was developed by Christina Pelchulsky. And F is for faith. So if you really want to do a spiritual assessment, so sometimes I have in the group, I'll say, so the group finishes, we say, well, how's spirituality been, how's it been for the last couple of weeks for you around your own faith? And so FICA, you think about that. Is it how important is faith or spirituality to you? Is it important? Some people say, yeah, there's faith, but it's just not very important actually. You're assessing it. C, community. Are you part of community? There's some kind of a family. Some people, they only need one other person who's in their corner. You know that as well. You need one person. Could be an aunt, an uncle, a relative, a friend, a colleague, a parent, a spouse. One person in your corner to get through. So that can be part of community. And A is action. What's your next action step? How are you going to act? So FICA is kind of helpful. And it's very simple because you always remember, oh, that FICA, yeah, I remember that thing. But faith, how important is it? Community and action. And then I have other questions here on page 4. Some of the might be. Number of people want to know, what is a spiritual practice? And a lot of people who are dealing with mental health issues and challenges, who've been with this for a while, will tell you what their spiritual practices are. And what do you think people would come up with? Prayer. Music.
Gardening.
What? Gardening, absolutely. Singing. Bible study. Worship. Dance. Having a pet.
Meditation.
Journaling. Writing, reading, devotional booklets. I mean, go on and on and on. And those are spiritual practices. And sometimes it's all we need is to have a variety of those practices that people could actually use. And so it's been very helpful for people to come up with some of those issues as well as they go on. Probably for many of those who are living with a person or has a relationship with somebody in their family who has mental health challenges is how they are taking care of themselves. We use the phrase all the time, self-care. But if you really get into the group where people are realizing that they are spent They are at the end of their rope. Where are they going to find self-care? What are some of those spiritual practices? But what are some of the other things that you would come to your mind, do you think? What would people need to do in order to have self-care? Exercise. Mm-hmm. Get those endorphins going, serotonin. Yep. Sleep. Find some sleep. Mm-hmm. If you can't, you might have to find some medication or talk to somebody to get sleep. Sleep, exercise. What's the other big third one? Is your nutrition. What are you eating? How are you eating? But there are many more you can come up with as well, and people will share what those things are along the way. Okay, where are we here? It's very interesting. I often wonder that there are tears. We also, I'm sorry, we didn't say that. We always put a box of tissues in the table, in the center of the table. Just symbolic, it's okay to cry. And there will be tears. There are tears for themselves, for others. And as a result of that, there almost is invariably laughter in the same time we're together. There's like that sorrow can carve out a space in which, therefore, the lightness of laughter can come. That's been our experience as well. I really try, we really try to keep at the beginning and the closing times very, very clear. And that has been good. So when we come to the end, even when people are still kind of talking, unless it's really something we really need to continue to pay attention to, listen to, say, oh, we have come to the end. Just want to let you know it is 8:30. And we all know that we agreed that there would be try to stay close to this time. If you want to go a little further, a little time, we can do that. Otherwise, I want us now to end, and we do it very similarly to how we began. We say, okay, settle yourself down, another 1 minute, which is not as long as the first minute. Isn't that interesting? It really is not. 1 minute goes very fast because people have been heard and people have absorbed, taken in what has been shared. And my hope is, my sense is, my expectation is that people have come somewhat, maybe, glad to be together for some anxious, some distraught with what's going on for the last couple of weeks. And by the time an hour and a half has gone by, there's more of a fullness and a settledness, I sense. So we come to that 1 minute of quiet, and then coming out of that, I'll say, and people have closed their eyes or open, I invite them to stay there, keep their eyes open or closed, whatever they would like. I say, is there a word or a phrase that you would offer to the group as a blessing as they go into the evening? And it's amazing that words come up. Friendship, companionship, hope, solace. What was the... Oh, see if I can remember this phrase. I forget. But there's one phrase that was hilarious in the group, and so we used that as the closing. Everybody laughed again, and it was, sorrow and sadness and joy and hope. All those words. That it's almost like it's a common benediction, and the word benediction means what? Bene, good, diction, word, good word. That's what a benediction is. So we have a common benediction that people just offering a word or a phrase out of our time together. And as a person has lit the candle, we now as a group are going to blow the candle out. And this is also usually kind of unusual or strange in some ways, because people who have food there, we know we're coming toward the end, so they take the food away, because everybody gets on the edge of their seat and they get a deep breath, and there's the candle, and everybody's going to really try to blow this candle out together. And of course we rarely do it the first time, so everybody scoots in closer, and then finally and I say, as the candle has been blown out, the candle has now gone into you. So you go not from the darkness, but you take the light with you into the darkness that has been here among us in the group. There are two kind of more specific things, and any other questions, that's great. One is, I've been very hesitant to develop an email list of the persons who have attended. However, I've been encouraged to do that by the majority of the group. So I do have an email list, and whenever I send out anything, as for instance a person who came 2 weeks ago mentioned 2 books that he couldn't remember the title and the author's names, and so he emailed it to me, and he said, could you please get this out to the group? So I took his email, and I put all the members who were willing to give me their email address, and we have, 25, 30, whatever it is, and you put that in the blind copy. So there's it doesn't go, all that stuff. So we do keep that list, and there have been a couple of people who have emailed me and asked me to send to the group. My son is now in prison, and he's just coming out, and I'm trying to figure out where he needs to go, because he hasn't been getting the kind of treatment that he needs, especially he was in the jail. It was a very good seminar workshop today, Jerry. This is a young man who was put in the jail, and they kept him there for 2 years. 2 years. He was 17 years old because of a sex offense. And so the day that they had released him, she said, please send prayers for him. Well, he was rearrested within 2 days, and this time, though, he was put to the state hospital, and so he's actually right there now. But anyway, so people wanted prayer, so I do not generate the emails, but people do want to stay in touch with each other in terms of support group. So that's one thing that we put together. So that is our group.
Alan, do you sit in a circle like this?
We do, yeah. And comfortable chairs.
In the middle.
We have a little table, low table, where we have the candle, the box of tissues, at least glasses of water. Sometimes people bring some soda or lemonade if it's really hot. Again, refreshment I think is good. I always have water, at least water. And then somebody just made a lot of zucchini bread. Zucchini's not even out now. Yeah, but it's all frozen from last summer. But it was still great zucchini bread. But that was her gift. That was a huge act for her. The first time she came to the group, she was catatonic. Could not talk. And now she's making zucchini bread and bringing it to the group. That is called breaking bread together, I think.
Would you limit the number of people in the group?
That's kind of what we're thinking about. If we have 20, I don't know what we're going to do if it continues to get low. At this point, they said everybody, because I happened not to be there the last Monday, they thought that everybody had a chance to speak, and so they felt that everybody was included, so they didn't feel the need at that point to break. But we're going to have the conversation. What do you think? What do you think? I don't know.
I see we have a lot of AA groups, and some of them are really big.
Oh yes. Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, this is not an AA group. Yeah.
It's more solemn and intimate than an AA group.
Much more. I've gone to a lot of Al-Anon groups. My son is now clean and sober because of AA. Thank you, Lord. But yeah,
I think there's another point about that, and the difference. And we've been, in terms of our families with people in prison groups that we've been thinking about. There's a difference between a support group and a self-help group.
I agree. Very true.
Think about
Very true.
AA that are generally self-actualizing.
Right.
And there's no facilitator.
Great.
Generally, there's an AA.
True.
It's because everybody who comes to that kind of group has essentially the same problem, and they can kind of run themselves. A support group like this, you're going to see a whole
spectrum,
range
big spectrum, right?
And you need. The thought is that in a support group, you probably do need a facilitator to kind of keep the train on the track, so the scope of the issues that you're going to see is so much different in a support group than it is in a self-help group.
That's a very good point.
But I think too that you can't if you get too big, then you lose some of the opportunity for people to feel that it's intimate enough to share, and so you might think about kind of identifying a few individuals on kind of those, both the consumer as well as families of consumers that are maybe more mature or along their path, and split it off. Start another one on a different night, or
that's a good thought. That's a good thought.
With survivor support groups, people who lost somebody to suicide, that 12, 15 is large.
That is large. I agree.
8, 10 is better.
Yeah.
That seems to work better. And then we do a grief group at our church, Sam and I. So and that one time we had 24. It was too many. So we try. It's not so bad now because there's a lot of support groups around grief support groups. So we try to limit it to 12.
And there's probably going to be, if you do that, there's going to be an initial
shock.
Yeah, it's sadness.
Splitting of the atom.
But then maybe say, okay, once a quarter we get everybody together and have a potluck or something.
True. That's I think we're working our way into that. That's true. The other thing that's really happened is a number of the people who have been coming to the support group over time have become members of our church. And I just want to make it very, very clear that this is not a way for people to join the church. However, these people who are come from Roman Catholic backgrounds, from none, from no faith community, or from communities where it has been said and heard by a person who, with me, founded the Interfaith Network from the pulpit, and the minister said, if you have a mental illness, you just need more faith and you need to pray more. And she got up and left, and I'm sorry, that's why you don't need medication. That was the thing. And she was so glad that her son, who has schizophrenia, was not there because he was debating whether or not he should be taking his medication. So it's I hope that the congregations that you are part of, that you're leading, that you're part of, will find ways so that the stigma can be broken enough. Again, if it's a spiritual support group, it does take time. It takes energy and it takes commitment to be there on and all the time. And but there are other ways to develop a mental health ministry that can also lead to that kind of inclusion and welcome and widening the welcome, which I think is so important. But since my retirement, I believe that this experience, in terms of my leading this spiritual support group at the church, is probably the most empowering experience that I'm part of, by the gifts of the people who bring who they are there. So that's it. I think, oh my gosh, it's 3:20.
That's It's really
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, no. The only other. I have some. Yeah, there are some handouts on. I think they're on. Some of these are on the.
earlier.
You had the support group, and you might have got these. This is the support. I gave this to Moses. This is the spirituality as a resource in recovery. Kind of the websites, and on the back are a couple books. Some of those are there. The books are on the back. Yep. And the other one is, how do you rate your faith community? This is from the Presbyterian Church. It's very, very good.
You know those Presbyterians. Yeah.
I know. What do you know about them? What do you know about those guys? Yeah.
This is the
So yeah, I'll pass that around too. So again, go to the table out there. I have little business cards there. You have my email address. If you take some steps in this, or you want to have some more encouragement or some more suggestions, please email me, and I'd be very, very glad to respond with my brilliant experience that I'm learning from other people, because I don't have it. It's great. So it's fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's great. Yeah, I'm so glad.
What most of the thing you didn't talk about that